A great day at Carver Hawkeye Arena. The women fall just short against third-ranked UCLA, while the wrestlers get it done against number 2 Oklahoma State. A look back, an incredible Sunday at Carver. Today, Locked On Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome into a new week. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, hit subscribe. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. We are with you each and every day talking the world of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us here today as we look back at the weekend that was in Hawkeye athletics. If you missed it, a rapid reaction podcast up on the men's basketball team, their big comeback victory against Washington. Talked about that in yesterday's podcast, and we'll talk a little bit later on about the men's team, what's in front of them, the way things are shaping up as they chase a bid into the Big Ten tournament. But we start first today. We'll get to the wrestling team. Incredible performance. Angelo Ferrari with the takedown, hurt around, certainly college wrestling of what he was able to do on Sunday night. Really fun. And boy, that old girl can still perk in it. Carver Hawkeye Arena. We start, though, with game one of Sunday, and that was the matchup against third-ranked UCLA. So the Bruins come to town with just one loss on the resume all year long. That came at the hands of USC, a road loss there. And as you could see, really from the get-go, this was an Iowa team that was gamed and ready to go. And, the unfortunate part about this season and the way that this is likely going to play out is Iowa's not going to be able to host the first and second round of the NCAA tournament. And you saw again an elite team, as we saw with USC when they came in, and now UCLA comes in. The environment at Carver Hawkeye Arena, it can't be matched. UConn has great environment. South Carolina has great environments for women's basketball, but there's something different about Carver Hawkeye Arena. And unfortunately, we're not going to have that chance unless Iowa basically wins out all the way through the Big Ten title. Then maybe they could get up to a number 4 seed, a top 16 seed, and be able to get in the tournament as a team that is hosting. That seems like an incredible stretch in order to get there. Obviously, that would mean winning 4, maybe 5 games in a row to get there. It's just not going to happen. But that aside, back to what we saw. And right away, this Iowa team locked in defensively. You saw the game plan. It's a game plan that a lot of teams try to do against Lauren Betts. It's the double right away. As the ball's going in, you got the double coming there. You're getting the ball out of her hands quickly, and you're making UCLA beat you from the outside. And UCLA couldn't, certainly early on. 1 for their first 11 from the three-point line, 5 of 25 overall. The game plan was elite. Jan Jensen had the women ready to go. The game plan was about as perfect as can be. And I mentioned this leading into the game. I really thought if Iowa was going to have a chance in this game, that they were going to have to score. Because UCLA is so deep, because they can beat you in so many different ways, I had a feeling if Iowa was going to win this one, they're going to have to score in the mid, maybe upper 70s, maybe even the 80s to get a victory here. But that wasn't the case because they had opportunities. And they had a chance to put this thing away. And if you've been listening for a while, you everyday listeners know referees, officials, they're going to come up. It happens, and it's a part of the conversation that happens in sport. It doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. Officiating, though, it comes up every single time. And we've known for a long time, and if you're a follower of women's basketball for a long while, you know just how bad officiating is in the sport. It's egregious. The things are bad in college basketball. Things are bad in a lot of sports. But women's basketball maybe takes the cake for when you take the notoriety, a sport that continues to generate interest, combined with the officiating, and whatever that is on that axis, so he can help me out, this is as bad as it could be. For support, for money generated, for impact in the sporting world and what women's basketball is. And then the officials. It's awful. And it was so bad. And this is one of the things that annoys me. I know a lot of people are talking about the final play, and Lucy Olson gets hit by a moving screen, stumbles, falls in to the ball handler, leads to a foul. UCLA gets free throws and gets the win. I know that's people want to go there. You can slow it down. You can take a lot of different angles. Look, the arm was out there on the screen. Nah, I can't get there. Go back and watch that thing in real time. She bumped and she ran into the person with the ball. It's going to happen. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality of the situation. It's not what it is. The one thing, though, that I despise about officials in basketball, and I hear it all the time. I broadcast high school games. I'm in the stands a lot of times, or very close to the stands in high school gyms, so I get to hear a lot. And what I hear, ref, it's 4-1 in fouls. Even it up. Well, what has happened? And to begin the fourth quarter, 4 fouls into a 5th foul. Iowa gets in the bonus right away. 4 of those 5 fouls were automatics. Automatics. They were absolutely fouls. But what happens? They stop blowing the whistle when Iowa has the ball, and they try to even it up. It's not officiating. It's not what it is. Teams play differently. Teams play different styles. Fouls are not made to be equal. It drives me absolutely batty, and this crew was bad. They were bad both ways. We also had to put that in there. This was something where the officials struggled on both ends of the floor. Bad. What can be done to alleviate it? I do not have an answer. But that was a rough showing. Rough showing out of that crew. Mentioned the final scores for UCLA at the free throw line. And then UCLA, you have to credit them at the end. The first 2 options on that out-of-bounds play. After the 2 made free throws, women's basketball, remember, you can advance the ball so they get it at half court. As they're advancing the ball forward, I thought it was drawn up well. Jan Jensen, I thought, had the right idea, or whoever the assistant coach was that came up with it, whoever it was the right choice. UCLA covered up the top 2 options. You get it to O'Grady at the top of the key. I guess the one part that you would probably say here is O'Grady. I saw some people killing, why haven't O'Grady shoot a jumper? O'Grady's a tremendous jump shooter from 15 feet, not from 20 feet. And when you don't have many opportunities from out there, I still didn't hate the shot. I still didn't hate going for the win in that spot with the situation, the 3 seconds on the clock. I really didn't. However, if it was even from 17 feet, maybe you feel a little bit more confident, but we're picking nits here. We really are. 2 options were covered up. It happens. O'Grady was there. O'Grady is a good jump shooter. Just didn't find the mark. Left it short. And how great would that have been? You know, they talked a lot on the broadcast about, obviously, her and Lauren Betts being teammates. We talked about that a couple of years ago when Lauren Betts was in the transfer portal and Iowa was making some inroads and the possibility of her maybe making her way to Iowa City for her final 2 years of eligibility. A couple of shout outs in the game. Lucy Olson, tremendous at times again. Just 1 assist in the game, though. And that's something, that number just has to be better for as much as she handles the ball. Taylor Stremlow came in. She had 4 assists, couple of rebounds, and didn't score, but she looked like she belonged. In a game like that, taking on a top 5 team, good to see her freshmen looking like they belong. I mentioned O'Grady had the shot at the end, but she played really, really well. I had 1 great play against her former teammate in Betts, just going up quick with that left hand. Love to see that, and that's the Addison O'Grady we're going to need going forward. McCabe, when she could find some room, she was good. Fulter with another double-digit rebound effort with 11 from her. They played tough. They played well. And this squad, they're going to be a team that, whatever they are, 7, 8, 9, 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. Still hope that they can get to a 6 because I think there's a path there for them to make a run to the Sweet 16. But if not, if they're in that tier, number 1 seeds don't want to see them. Number 2 seeds certainly don't want to see this Iowa squad. Yes, both of these games were at Carver, But the way that they were able to handle Juju Watkins, this is also a team playing with a lot more confidence. You go back to the losing streak, and yes, losing streaks are going to make you lose your confidence, right? I mean, it goes without saying when you're not winning, confidence is hard to find. But I really enjoy what we've seen out of this group and what they have proven that they have been resilient, tough, and even in a loss. I think a lot to take away from this team. Now they go on the road to Michigan. This is a winnable road tilt before they wrap up the regular season against Wisconsin. 2 wins there moves them up the pecking order and possibly keeps them out of the opening day of the Big Ten tournament. I put them at 10-8. And when they set at 2-6 in the Big Ten, did anybody have that team having a winning record or even getting back to 500? Probably not many. And here they are, just a win against Wisconsin and 2 wins against Michigan and Wisconsin to make it a winning season in the Big Ten. It would be a great note in Jan Jensen's first year. We know the cavalry's coming. The fans are engaged. They're into it. Carver was incredible again during the afternoon. It was incredible in the evening as well. And when we continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes, we're going to take a look at that wrestling team. A win against second-ranked Oklahoma State. An eye-opening performance again from a Ferrari. We'll talk about that as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. March basketball's right around the corner, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. If you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. This week, I'm taking a look in the NBA. Jason Tatum, more than 29 points, and Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds. I love how I can make my picks in less than 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. And what I win, my money hits my account in as little as 15 minutes. No waiting around. PrizePicks even offers weekly promos like Taco Tuesday, where you get discounted player projections for even more value. Download the app today. Make sure you use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That'll get you $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with PrizePicks. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Back with you once again, Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network. We got you covered on the Hawkeye side of things, but your favorite MLB team with spring training underway, your favorite NFL team with the draft right around the corner, NBA, NHL, all here on the Locked On Network, and a whole lot more. We got you covered on the Hawkeyes, so let's get back into it and talk about what we saw after a solid performance out of the women and just falling short against third-ranked UCLA. The wrestling team does not fall short. In a duel against Oklahoma State that has become somewhat of a tradition here recently, what they've done at the end of the season, playing this, wrestling this duel, where two obviously historic programs, yes, Penn State, I get it. We don't need to talk about the Nittany Lions right now. Do have something to say about them, but just something a little bit different at the end of the year. It's not a matchup against a Big Ten foe. You're going to see a Big Ten foe anyway, and a bunch of them come the Big Ten tournament in a couple of weeks. So just a different way to finish the season. With David Taylor, I believe is going to build down there. Jax Forrest, his commitment. Drayshawn Ross, who I got to see down at the state tournament, calling the action from the Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines this weekend and throughout the week. Boy, he's a stud. he's really, really good. And it's going to be disappointing not to see him in a Hawkeye singlet. But that aside, we get to the duel. And I'll tell you, I was shocked. Another one that we talked about in the lead up to this duel. I was so surprised. So Circus Sports has dual lines for college wrestling, including the Iowa. And Iowa was the underdog in this one. And I guess I wasn't shocked, but I was surprised that Iowa was an underdog. And you kind of look at the way that this duel went, I guess it kind of makes sense. Iowa falls 21-16. And probably the two things that I missed, what I was projecting and getting to the way that I thought this was going to play out, I thought we were going to see a little bit more out of Cruz at 25. I was surprised, not just that he was majored, but he should have been technical fault in the match. That was an eye-opener to me. And then what happened at the end of the duel when Hendrickson just absolutely dominated Ben Keeter. There's been a lot of talk about Ben Keeter and his size, the way that it relates to the heavyweight division. Now, at 285 pounds, he is not going to be a guy that is pushing up towards the top of that weight class. We know that. You look at his build, he's going to get bigger and stronger here the next couple of years, but he's never going to be a guy, I don't believe, body type wise, that's going to be pushing up and is going to be weighing, 270 plus, wrestling at 285. You don't anticipate when you just look at his build that that's going to happen while still keeping the speed, the size, the athleticism that he has and going that direction. But to see a bigger heavyweight in Hendrickson just dominate in that way and kind of do whatever he wanted. A technical fall, 18-3 in 5 minutes of action at heavyweight. You don't see that. So those were the two that I think I missed the most. The story of the duel, though, and what we'll, I think, remember the most out of this one, and I'm going to remember for a long time, is Angelo Ferrari getting the upset win against a guy that wrestled for a national championship a year ago in Plot. Wins it with the takedown in OT and putting the three fingers up to indicate got three. The cutaways to his family, his mom and dad in the crowd. But then on top of it afterwards, and hearing Angelo speak a couple of different times, he's wired differently than his brother. Let's put it mildly. We'll just go there. He's not AJ. And I think we all know, or maybe you lived it, being in the shadow of a sibling, having a sibling that is wired differently than you are. And when those things are happening, and when you're going through those things, and you're not your sibling, right? You are a different person. And to hear him afterwards, the credit that he gave to Gabe Arnold and his teammates, you just seem like a normal, good dude. There's an air of confidence that you have to be to be a top level wrestler. That is a part that goes hand in hand with it. I rewatched the Brands documentary afterwards that came on a little bit after it wrapped up after the daily Big Ten show, and watching that, those guys are wired differently. Like that, but they're not bad people. And Angelo, I think, got lumped in a little bit with AJ and the exploits that we saw from him, but a great performance. And for people that are wondering now what happens at 184, it'll be Gabe Arnold. And this is the game plan that I was come up with. Ferrari was going to get his 5 matches. Remember, changing the rules a couple years ago, you can wrestle up to 5 matches during the season, not accounting ones where you're unattached. 5 matches throughout the course of the season, yet still maintain your redshirt status. Because could Angelo Ferrari be an All-American this year? Yeah. Could Angelo Ferrari make a run? Maybe all the way to the finals? Possibly. There's a better than zero chance that could happen. But is it going to matter for Iowa in the team race? It's not. Because even if that happens at 184, you're not running down Penn State. And this is a wrestling conversation that we've had a ton. It's not about this year. And that's disappointing for the seniors. That's disappointing for guys like Buchanan that came in for a year. Caliendo, Tiber, guys like that. It's disappointing. And you want to do everything possible. And again, it's not a non-zero chance, but it's not a very good one that Iowa beats Penn State this year. But I don't think it's going to make a difference who's at 84. What we're going to see there. What are we going to see at 74? Is it going to be Nelson Brands now going forward? Is he going to be the guy? A decision that will be made here in the next couple of weeks. Teamer, Caliendo, Parco, boy, if that guy could ever get consistent. Buchanan, all these guys are absolute studs. Can't forget about Ayala. Another nice performance out of him. But Penn State's just at a different level. You're trying to figure out a way to beat them, trying to find a way to track them down. Iowa's going to have a good run. They're going to send 9, maybe all 10, probably 9 to nationals. And they're not going to quit. They're not going to give up. But it's how are we going to beat the Nittany Lions? And it's not going to happen this year. That's where they are. Fun night, though. Fun night. Big performance. And if you grabbed Iowa in the +1, you got a victory as they win it outright 21-16 over Oklahoma State. Whole lot more going on, not just wrestling and basketball happening in the world of Hawkeye athletics. We're going to talk about a little baseball when we come back. Iowa baseball with a big weekend, and take a look at the week ahead in Hawkeye athletics as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game more exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a chance at the rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app super easy to use, and when you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back with you one final time, Locked On Hawkeyes. I'm Trent Condon. Thanks for being with us here today. So as we mentioned, we got a busy week upcoming in Iowa sports. It will begin on Tuesday as the Hawkeye men make their way to Champaign-Urbana to take on the Illini, coming off a ugly performance against Duke over the weekend at Madison Square Garden on Saturday night. They shot terribly in that game. Let's hope they continue to shoot terribly, but boy, in that building, it's been a house of horrors for the Hawkeyes throughout the years, and Andy Coffin at the top of that list. On Wednesday, the Hawkeye women go to Michigan for that road trip. That'll be a 6:00 tip-off in that matchup. Again, possibility for Iowa to move up the pecking order if they can finish these final 2 games. Opportunity for a good victory. This would be a quad 1 victory for the Hawkeye women as well. That is coming up a little bit later on in the week on Wednesday. The wrestlers are off until we get to Big Tens in a couple of weeks, so that's going to be a whole lot different for them. Also, an updated look at the resume for the Iowa women after the performance. They stay at number 29 in the net ranking, so still in good shape with that 29 number for the Hawkeye women. A little bit different than I think a lot of people kind of consider their resume. They say, well, man, they're in 10th place in the Big Ten. How good can it be? 29th in the net rankings. They are now 3-6 in quad 1, 4-3 in quad 2. You put those together, that is a 7-9 record. Pretty good in comparison to some of the other teams in that 6, 7, 8 seed line where Iowa is projected by most of the women's bracketologists out there. For the Iowa men, it's going to be about chasing things down for them, obviously, and trying to stay in the top 15 and get their way into the Big Ten tournament. So Iowa baseball over the weekend. It starts on Friday night. Iowa has a good chance to beat Notre Dame. Another great pitching performance out of this Iowa team. And I think that's what we're learning right now about this squad. They're going to be able to pitch with most everybody, certainly in the Big Ten this year. You're seeing what they're able to do at that level. Really good starts out of all the guys, seemingly every single time. The bullpen certainly has been much better than it was a year ago at this time when Iowa was really struggling. Remember all the buzz that the Hawkeye baseball team coming into last season had, and it just didn't work out. So on the heels of going down to South Florida and losing 2 out of 3 in some frustrating games against the Bulls, lose to Notre Dame, who's now 5-1, but bounce back, get the 7-0 win against Stetson, and then a 6-0 win against UMBC. It's too early to start worrying about RPIs and the like. However, you take a look, coming up next week, they got Washington State, who's awful. They're 0-7 already on the year. Obviously, the Pac 12 has fallen apart around them. That is one where, at minimum, Iowa's got to win 3 out of 4, and you might even be thinking sweep next week in those matchups against Wazoo. They got Big Ten play starting on March 7th. I mean, it's right around the corner. Big Ten play will start against Rutgers. It's early. Again, the early start to the season. Not want to overrate things. A perfect start, though, for Purdue, who is undefeated on the year. And remember the additions of the West Coast schools. UCLA, USC, obviously. But Oregon is invested a ton into their program. So what those programs are going to be towards the top of the Big Ten, you'd anticipate. But baseball is going to be more difficult this year. And just getting to the Big Ten tournament going to be more difficult. Coach Heller, they got the right guy on the job. And they got some pitching to go along with it. Should be a fun season for the Iowa baseball team. And then the Iowa softball team, will give you a little update as well on the women. Watch a little softball today. So if you've heard me in the past, you know my daughter is now a softball player. I think she's a good softball. She's a good softball player. We have some fun out there. But the Iowa women are off to a really good start. Now, it's not been an overly daunting schedule when you look at it in its totality. Strength of schedule, 246 in the country. And when you look at it by the RPI, their losses, all 3 of them, have come in quadrant 1. But you start stacking up these victories, you start to feel a little something here. You go back to the beginning of the season. Lost to Texas Tech. That's who I was watching against Indiana for a little bit today. All their losses, though, are against teams ranked in the top 20. 6th ranked Tennessee, 8th ranked Texas Tech, and 16th ranked Missouri. Since then, they've won 8 in a row. Again, not against the who's who of college softball, but good to see. Now, this program once was a power, and Gail Blevins led them to College World Series and Big Ten championships. And the Big Ten was a power. And let's hope to get it back to that level because there is a ton of talent in the state. It's frustrating a lot of times if you're a fan of softball to see how much talent leaves our state borders or how much ends up even in state, but not in Iowa City. Need to continue to work that to change. And if that happens, fun sport. Can get into it and Old Pearl Field, get that thing up and revved up once again. We will keep an eye on that as we make our way through spring. We are about a month away from the beginning of spring football practice. Lots to talk about on that front. The new look Iowa Hawkeye offense. How different is it going to look this upcoming season? We got to take a peek at the depth chart and take a stab at the way that we believe that's going to play out. So there is a lot here. Tuesday, Wednesday, basketball this week, and we will have you covered as we do each and every day on Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us here today. Again, thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching us or if you're listening on the audio side. 5-star review. Go to Apple right now. Just takes you a moment. Give us a nice comment. We really do appreciate it. Helps the algorithm and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Until tomorrow, one last thing for you. Go Hawks.